Hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Geeks and One Noob, where we gather friends of similar interests and maybe not so similar and discuss, joke, learn more about, and generally have fun with geek culture. Well, today we are talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the second part to...
the sequel and part one.
I mean, yeah, he's right. I don't like agreeing with David, but he's right.
You're out of line, but you're not wrong. But anyway, yeah. So the sequel to what's the first one called? It's Spider-Man
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the
Into the
Spider-Verse.
yeah.
Part 1. I thought the third one was going to be called Beyond the Spider-Verse.
It is.
Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So it's not
I'm not
part 2.
It is definitively a part 2.
Well-
It's just being given a different title.
Yeah.
It's not going the anime route of Attack on Titan Final Season Parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Part 1 of 4. Like,
what he
it's a-
said.
Yeah.
It is a part 2 with a different title.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's
In
how-
a
that's
different
how they-
universe, this would be a lot easier to talk about.
In a different universe, audiences' butts are far more comfortable so they can sit down for 6 hours and enjoy one movie.
Oh, it would only be 4 hours.
It was over 2 for the first part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was 2.5.
Yeah, and the next part is said to be about the same length. So yeah,
Okay.
it'd be
So
So
yeah.
5 to 6 hours.
5 to 6 hours. Yeah.
All right. Call
Yeah.
me stupid then.
We do that anyway.
I don't do those maths too good.
We don't always need to say it, friend.
We love you, boo.
Anyway.
This has been a real punchy intro.
So, what'd you guys think of the movie?
It was great. Like, I wasn't sure if they were gonna live up to the hype of the first one when I went into it, and it's like I figured it was going to be good because they've just put so much time and effort into it, and the studio like clearly has a passion for this project,
Yeah.
as well as a understanding and respect for the source material.
Mhm.
But I was still kind of nervous going in just because of how good the first one was, and then also the fact that it came out the same year as Mario. I was like, man, they've got a lot of big movies to live up to. One of them being their own movie.
Yeah.
And I was very, very happy with it. And it's like, I honestly, especially like towards the end, I was just sitting there, I was like, man, there's still so much going on. Like, how are they going to wrap this up?
Yeah.
And then the to be continue theme came up. I'm like, oh yeah, there is a second part. That's how they're going to wrap it up.
Yeah. Which, humorously, that's almost verbatim the responses I get from most of my coworkers when we were talking about it.
Nice.
I was like, I felt like it was just paced out so well.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was as long of a movie as it was.
Definitely.
I was genuinely engaged and enjoying it really the entire time. I can't even think of any parts where I was just sitting there like, okay, this is dragging. Like, I was genuinely enjoying it.
Yeah, there was always something really cool going on. It never lagged at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was definitely really, really cool. I watched it again today because I wanted to make sure I had it fresh in my brain. And I was like, okay, it's going through. Wait, it's done?
Yeah.
Like, I thought there was more.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of it, David? You're the only one that hasn't chimed in yet.
So I really enjoyed it, and I love the fact that they continue the idea of giving
Wait a second.
each.
He did chime in. He mass verbatimed it.
He didn't actually like use a full-on sentence to explain what he enjoyed.
Go for it.
I completely lost my train of thought. Hamsters off the wheel.
What did you think of the movie?
Oh yeah, that. So I really enjoyed it. I love the fact that they carried on the idea of each spider person having their own art style. I know that was somewhat divisive, but it further emphasized to the audience of kind of each one of them as a fully developed character in and of themselves. They're not cookie cutter of the others.
Yeah.
So if it's thematic elements like the fact that Miguel doesn't have a spider sense,
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
or how Miles has invisibility.
And shockies.
Right. Forget.
Well said.
Taser webs, yes.
Taser webs. Is that Taser Beam's cousin?
Probably.
Taser face.
Yeah,
Oh,
that.
God. Okay, all right.
This has been such an interesting first 6 minutes of this episode.
Yeah. But the fact that they give each of the spider people their own animation style to further emphasize more about them and how they're more fully realized, it's like, okay, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that when I first started watching, and they started off with within Gwen's world.
and it's almost all
And
watercolor.
It's all wash color and
Yeah.
just very different. I was like kind of thrown off. I was like, that's not what they showed in the trailer. What is going on? And I just was completely caught off guard by it. And as they started showing everything else, I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay,
Mhm.
now it's starting to click a little bit more.
Yeah. I'll give my first little negative part of this so we can just kind of go through that and get to the positive. But my only negative thing about the movie was the animation style to an extent. I liked it. I enjoyed it overall, but I think it was just a little bit over chaotic.
A little much.
If they had
Yeah.
streamlined it just a little bit to make it less so jumpy,
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have enjoyed it that much more. But overall, loved the movie.
So sort of like the first Transformers, where it's just like, okay, cool, CGI blob, got it.
Well,
I
I
get,
put
like-
it more so in the Venom.
Yes.
Yeah, where the CGI blob thing. Yeah,
I could see that. And it's like, especially once we got to the Spider-Verse
yeah.
area,
Mhm.
and it was just like all of the different versions. It was a lot happening, and there wasn't. It was almost, despite the fact that it was such a massive area, it was cluttered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Because
there
there was
was
just so many crammed into different areas, and
Yep.
like there was some different moments that were really cool, and like I thought that they did them really well with the way that they set it up, like
Yeah.
with the prison scene, for example, going through and having the different cameos of different, like the live action and then the video game character, and
yeah.
Donald Glover's Prowler.
Yep.
Donald Glover's Prowler there, and like, so like I thought that scene was really cool, but
Yep.
leading up to that moment when they were just walking through the Spider-Verse city, it was just like there's so much crammed in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing I just realized when I watched it this last time was like I was originally thinking that it was a universe that was kind of almost like a pocket universe of spider people. But it ended up being an actual world
Mhm.
where it was just like a headquarters that had all the spider people.
Yeah.
Because there was regular people in the world.
Which you have to admit, it's kind of trippy to realize that little pocket universe or whatever is theoretically infinite landmass,
Mm,
because there are
Yeah.
theoretically infinite worlds and infinite multiverses.
yep.
Or nearly infinite. If I could words, nearly infinite universes within the multiverse. Finally, got it out.
In the vast expanse of the multiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Doctor Strangeline. But Caleb did bring up another point that I was wanting to get into was all those Easter eggs, all those different spider people. As I was watching it today, I was making notes. I was like, okay, like which ones are the ones that like stick out to me a lot?
Yeah.
And I made a list. I don't know if you guys have any in your head or made a list
I've
or
got a
anything,
few that I could list off thinking about it, but go through your list.
yeah, I
and
was
that'll
gonna say
help me.
you mentioned a couple of them already, but so the first thing I noticed was in the beginning of the movie was Genki was playing the Marvel Spider-Man, which I
Mhm.
found out later in some of the featurettes that he was actually playing the Spider-Man 2. They actually
Really?
previewed Spider-Man 2 in it.
That's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was like,
I mean,
what?
it-
It's Spider-Man 2?
It does make sense.
It
'Cause
does.
That was, this movie was made by Sony, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Sony owns the studio that is
Sony
doing the
Animation
games,
Studio,
so,
and
like,
it's
makes
sponsored by
sense.
Sony through
It
Insomniac.
makes sense that
Yeah.
Sony's going to tease their own stuff. For
Absolutely.
It. It's like, they don't even have to pay for advertising. For that.
It was cool. I was taken aback by that.
I didn't even pick up on that. That's a good catch.
Yeah. But then so these kind of went in order a little bit. So they went to the Lego Spider-Man universe.
Mhm.
That
Then
was great.
Yeah. So this was while the Spot was going through the different universes. So he went to the Lego Spider-Man universe, then he went to the Venom verse, the Tom Hardy version, where he was in the convenience store.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Just sit there
She's
completely
just looking at
unimpressed.
him and is
She's-
like, "You think
Yeah.
you're the first monster I've seen?
Yep.
Wait, what?"
Yep. Another kind of Easter egg was how he, as he was coming out of that, he looked at his hand, or the Spot looked at his hand and said, "The power of the multiverse in the palm of my hand," which is a Dr. Octopus line where it was the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. Which was cool. Then live action Prowler. They had live action Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
Yep.
They had the video game Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly. The old school cartoon Spider-Man, which I thought was hilarious. The line it gave them
Yeah.
was, "Ooh, I think I pulled something," because he's so old. Because it's just he came out in what
I want to say 50s.
I want to say this
No.
50s or 60s. I think it was the 60s.
Yeah.
When Stan Lee created him. Yeah, we'll look that up later. But yeah, those were the main ones that like really stuck out to me. There was a lot more, but what other ones did you guys catch that maybe I didn't?
Those were all fun ones for sure. The video game one was one of my favorite ones, just with how much I love the game.
Yeah.
Scarlet Spider was another one that stood out to me because that's always been my favorite variant of it.
And his like over dramatic
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, I'm thinking about my past."
Yeah. Cowboy Spider was pretty cool. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
Web Slinger.
Web Slinger, there we go.
Yep.
One that it kind of ties into one of my nitpicks was, to your point, the Venom universe. And there's so much more that they could have done with that. I'll get into that complaint a little bit later. But that one, like, as much as I liked that cameo, I also thought that was just a massive missed opportunity.
Oh yeah.
Well, just not just with this movie, just across the board. But yeah, so I felt like that one was a missed opportunity. But yeah, the Web Slinger, that was probably one of the other big ones. And then, like, I thought Miguel was done really well.
Oh, yeah.
He was a fun character in this one. So
Definitely.
Fun, but also a very compassionate villain. Both in the sense of you kind of understand what he's doing, but also you can kind of
like,
side with him.
I'm kind of I agree, but there's also like part of me is kind of getting tired of the like sympathy route with the villains, because it's like there's so many iconic villains that are just villains because they're evil.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something that I've always enjoyed with a good villain. And so like
Make them evil, don't make me care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
I
like,
think that's the thing about this one though, is that I honestly did not think of him as the villain. I thought of him
he
as
wasn't the villain, he was
yeah.
an antagonist for sure. Though.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
he thought he was doing the right thing, and technically in the world of what he was doing, it would be considered the right thing.
Mhm.
If not just tough love.
Yeah, it was letting things that were supposed to happen, quote unquote, letting them happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because if without those things happening, Spider-Man really didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he was trying to keep Spider-Man existing as a hero, but he was just like, he was misguided and not taking into account certain certain aspects of that where it could change for a specific one.
Yeah, and it is kind of the old conundrum of when do we branch from following it to being legalists?
Right. Yeah.
To following what we're supposed to do to being legalists. Sorry. So he's really kind of towing that line in many ways, especially with his logic. He's showing like this isn't overboard.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else is like, "You're insane!
Yeah.
No, you
It's-
called in half of us to
yeah.
destroy another multiverse just because one guy managed to fault what you called a canon event."
Right.
Yeah.
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 I mean, to his defense, a little bit. I mean, the world was collapsing, but
Yeah.
but other than that, like, yeah,
Yeah.
it has to come to that line of like, what is overboard and what's the good thing to do.
Yeah, and I highly suspect they're setting it up so that the Peter Parker we met in the first one,
Peter B. Parker.
thank you, Peter B. Parker, he and his daughter will be the ones to kind of show off, like, no, there is a thing, it's tough love.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to let people make their own decisions.
Yeah.
You've got to let them live and learn on their own.
I mean, he kind of already pointed that out to some extent to Miguel, and he was just saying clearly there's something different about Miles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why don't we let him make his own decisions and see what happens?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is going to play a really big role
Oh, yeah.
in the next one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I foresee a pretty big conflict in the next one for sure, because it's like we've got Miguel and the two spiders he took with him for his big bout, and we've got Spider-Gwen getting her crew together.
Yeah.
So it's like there's gonna be some big stuff coming in the next one for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of hope it spills out into the other like live action stuff a little bit.
I would love that.
That'd be awesome. I don't see
I'm
how it could play
worried
well.
that it's not going to, because of how horribly they dropped the ball with Venom, both in Across the Spider-Verse and in No Way Home,
Yeah.
just across the board. And then as well as like also really getting the closure with both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's characters from their respective movies in No Way Home. So
Yeah.
as much as I would love that, I would love for you to be right. That's just kind of what I see, just based on the way that we've already seen so far.
Yep. Can definitely understand that.
Yeah. Which says, since you're on that topic already, you want to just go ahead and run with what you were talking about the missed opportunity with Venom?
Sure. Yeah, I can go ahead and jump into that one. I felt like there was such a big buildup and tease that there was going to be something with Tom Hardy's Venom in the main quote unquote canon timeline, and then they just did nothing with it. And it's like when I remember sitting there with a buddy watching Let There Be Carnage in theaters, and we got to that post credit scene, and it flashes Tom Holland's character on the screen. Me and him both just jaws hit the floor. We were just sitting there like, there's no way they're gonna do this. And then all that they did was just a quick post-credit scene with Venom and No Way Home, and then I was like, bam, back to his timeline. I was like, no, there's so much more you could do. And then with all of the time skip or the multiverse skipping from this movie, I was like, maybe we'll get a little bit more out of it. And then they just showed the convenience store, and we didn't even get anything with Tom Hardy in this one. I was just like, you guys, what the crap, Sony? Use your assets. Do this thing.
They did. They took the convenient way out.
They took the lazy way out.
Convenience store. Got it.
Thank you.
Oh, I
Thank
got
you.
it. I'm not going to acknowledge that it was good because I'm salty. Like,
I will say they did leave it open in No Way Home for Venom to come in, though.
They left it open for this universe's Venom.
Yeah.
Not
the Tom
Venom
Hardy
we
version.
know.
Yeah,
You
no,
know, so it's going to be in a different version. It's going to be the Marvelized version. It's not going to be the Sony version.
Yep.
And that's what I want to see Tom Hardy's version in more things, because it is a good version of Venom.
Right.
It is a fun version of the character, and there's so much that they could have and frankly should have done both in No Way Home and in Across the Spider-Verse, and they just completely screwed the pooch.
Yeah. David, what other ones did you see that
The only one that really stuck out to me was more of a callback to Spider-Gwen's backstory.
okay.
She would always refer to herself as a penguin. And so whenever she sees her dad in the reflection and what looks like him drawing a gun to arrest her, she whips a web at him, and it sticks the stuffed penguin to the wall. And then in an almost throwaway line, I'm pointedly very intentional to kind of foreshadow what that whole conversation and interaction is going to be about. Captain Stacy just looks at her and says, "You want to take it easy on the penguin?" It's like, oh, that was brilliant writing. Because
The whole setup with her and her dad was just
Yeah.
written so
Oh, yeah.
well.
I liked it too,
Yep.
a lot.
But even
How
the
he-
use of color in that scene and all that was very, very pointedly showing more and more of how the two characters are viewing each other.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's really the only, to get back to your point.
Yeah.
That's really the only Easter egg that I really keyed in on.
Okay.
Outside of, I mean, the more obvious ones, like Lego Spider-Man was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was rolling at that one.
Which apparently also in the featurettes was done by a 14-year-old.
Really?
Yeah. They got this person, I forget who the person was, but it was like a 14-year-old kid that they're like, "Do you want to film this for our movie?" And actually got him to do it. It was just like, whoa. It's because it's all stop motion.
That's a
with
heck of a
Legos.
start to a career, there.
Right?
Right.
Man.
But yeah, so it was a really cool way to bring that kind of thing in.
Yeah.
I will say also, like, some of the other Spider-Men that they put in there that didn't have any lines or didn't have any like real importance to it other than just that they were there was like the armored Spider-Man, the black and white Spider-Man, the
negative Spider-Man from the
no, it was like it was an actual black and white suit
okay.
that I forget what particular version it was, but then there was also the cyborg Spider-Man, the big honking thing.
Well, Spider.
Was that
Spider? We're talking about Penny Parker's?
No. Like there's like a cyborg, like
I missed that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that one that he was like hanging from his back, it was like looked like almost like a Spider-Man Captain America shield thing that he was just clinging to, hiding on his
right.
back.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually I think that's another version that was in the comics. I forget what version it was, but then they had this other one in there that they mentioned in the featurettes that was like it was played by a person named Logic or something like that. But it was the one that was like, oh, I guess he did have a place to run. But I didn't really know anything about that. So
I liked some of the other newer Spider-Man that they brought in, like Pavit. I loved his character so much.
Which
chai means chai.
The fact that he was using the ring with his webs.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's called a bolo or something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
I think so.
Like
I'll have to look that up. But
whole character was just so much fun, and like
you know who plays him, right?
yeah,
The guy that plays Dopinder from Deadpool,
Which is freaking perfect.
Karen
hilarious.
Karen Sony.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just the whole character was so funny, and it's just you very much got that Dopinder vibe.
Oh,
with the
yeah.
way because it's just his normal voice. But
Since we already kind of suspect, and most of us fans are already suspecting that Deadpool is much closer to being in a MCU film. What if they bring that Spider-Man in?
that would be hilarious.
Oh man,
so funny.
That would be hilarious if it actually was Dopinder.
Right.
That would be so funny. I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised if Ryan Reynolds did that too.
Oh, just like at least mentioned it, like, hey, I recognize your voice, or so, something like that.
There's got it like something, yeah. But no, like,
Sunset
his
Daffodil
character was just so much fun.
Yeah,
and just like, and his whole universe that he was
Mumbattan.
in, Mumbattan, yeah, Mumbattan, like just everything about that, I just thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. All right, so I actually came up with a couple of questions for today, just to throw you guys off.
I'm already off. We know this.
So
which one of us though?
All right. So if you could be if you could be one of the many Spider-Men and have their particular power set, which would you choose?
It's a tricky one. Honestly, the first one that came to mind was the video game Spider-Man, just because like
Oh, all the gadgets and
all
stuff.
the gadgets, just seeing like the different way he uses his powers and everything. That was the first one that came to my mind. But if we're gonna limit it to the movie and the ones that we saw,
Yeah. He was in it.
he had a cameo. He wasn't like a
Mainstay character,
right.
Well, I'm
counts.
including all of them though. Like
That would be
counts.
my first pick.
Yeah.
Then then probably
accept
go Web Slinger for my second pick, just because
Yeah,
it'd be
there you
hilarious.
go. Nice. What about you, David?
Stole mine. For me, it would be, Web Slinger or 2099.
So you'd
Okay.
be a vampire.
Is he?
He is a vampire. Yep.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yep.
Oh
You
my
didn't see his
gosh.
fangs?
It just didn't occur to me.
They also say that he's a vampire.
I thought that was kind of a joke. Like,
No.
okay, he acts like a little goth guy, but
Yep. Nope. He is full on vampire.
okay.
I think somehow he was exposed to like Morbius's blood or something like that. Or
Okay.
I don't remember
So-
specifically.
Based on what I'm seeing here, it actually says he's not a vampire, but he has venomous fangs.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like he's got more of like that's kind of his traditional spider element that he has.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I take back everything I said then.
But I mean, like he acts like a vampire. And,
Oh, yeah.
like,
He kinda
even the way
does.
he fights and just the way he was like crawling up
Mhm.
the train chasing Miles is just like, oh, that's like monster-esque. That's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
I am a
He's like,
hero.
are those claws?
That wasn't like I'm a hero trying to stop you. That is, I am going to destroy you.
Yeah.
And that was
Like his movement animations were pure nightmare fuel,
Oh,
and
for
I am
sure.
here for it.
It was so cool.
Yeah. That's definitely one of my favorite things about that character though, is like how very different of a Spider-Man he really is.
Yeah.
Like when I first saw and heard of that character before these movies came out, I wasn't a huge fan of it because it was so different from Spider-Man. And he was calling himself Spider-Man. But now seeing this, it kind of like, okay, no, I see where he's coming from and why
Yeah.
he is the way he is. Because he's, he lost everything and like
Yeah.
he lost his world basically. So it's just like, no, I understand it.
So looking at this, it says he's not a vampire. He does not possess the vampiric thirst for blood. He possesses fangs that generate a non-toxic paralyzing venom that he can use in fighting.
Nice. Okay. Cool. I like that.
So that's actually pretty interesting, especially with just his fighting style and movement style. Like
Yeah.
it kind of fits.
They're
honestly.
very monstrous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially just with like the blades off of his arms, just
Mhm.
like man, like he was designed to be a villain.
Mhm.
He really
Yeah.
was.
I mean, it's sort of like Spider-Man and X-23 crossover.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. For mine, I guess I should have thought of it as I was, thinking of the questions, but
It's
Um,
easy to surprise everyone
yeah.
with a question. It's not so easy to have an answer, is it?
nope, it's not.
I would taste your own medicine, Dan.
He thought he'd catch me off guard. Caught himself off guard.
Yep.
You
I
sly
sure
dog, you
did.
got us monologue.
Yeah, no, I think I'd have to agree with Caleb. The video game Spider-Man was definitely top notch.
Mhm.
I think just having all the access to the gadgets and I think even the fighting style itself lends itself very well to superhero work,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, either that or the Tom Holland one. Like, I think there's some cool aspects to that.
Oh, for sure.
But
Well, the Tom Holland one also has a lot of the same versatility.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there's
I mean,
a lot of
Has a lot
Stark
of the
stuff.
gadget work with the Stark tech. Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, he get to be on the Avengers.
an
Although the
intern,
Avengers
just an
were a
intern.
part of the the video game as well.
Though
So
technically, the Avengers don't know who he is anymore. So
that's true. That's a good point.
no one knows who he is anymore. Now that I'm thinking about it.
No. Except for maybe, I think I heard something about maybe Hulk might know, but I don't know. I think that was just like a fan theory, but
I think so. They haven't confirmed who does and doesn't know for sure yet.
yeah. All right, so my next question is kind of similar to an extent. But if you could live in one of the universes in the Spider-Verse, which one would it be?
Noir.
I figured it was either going to be Noir or the
2099.
I was thinking of the Web Slinger, or
Really?
maybe not Web Slinger, something else.
Eh.
But anyway, yeah, Noir I think fits your personality pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad but true.
Honestly, for mine, I might just go straight up with Miles' universe.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, we've seen a good bit of it from both of the movies now. And so it's like, I think that would probably be my pick, honestly.
Nice. Cool. I like that.
And you, Dan?
And me.
Should have thought of an answer for this one, too.
Thought of an answer for this one, too. It's a crazy question because like there's so many,
Right?
And I'm
like, as much as I like Gwen's universe, I wouldn't want to live in a whitewash universe like that.
Yep. And yet we also haven't seen a whole lot of the other universes. Technically, we've only seen 42 Gwen's and Miles
and Pavit's.
And Puppies, yeah.
Yeah.
So, although that one I think would be kind of fun too, we've
seen a very small portion of Peter B. Parker's universe as well.
Right.
Very small,
but it's that one's very similar to
Miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess I could be kind of bland and say either one of those because they're very just New York.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So for you, would it be whichever one is this one?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Although, all right, so here's the hilarious thing is that as far as I've ever heard, the universe that we supposedly our world is, I could have sworn was always Earth 616. But apparently Earth 616 is the one that the Avengers are technically in. Because I think that's what they said in Multiverse of Madness.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of strange, but I didn't mean it that way. But...
Oh, I was about to say, I see what you did there.
But yeah, so anyway, back to the movies themselves. I did have another question concerning them. What did you guys think of the progression of Miles's abilities throughout between 1 and 2? Like,
I kind of like that we didn't get another training montage.
Yeah, that's good.
And I really wish that DC would take notes because I think that's how you show progression in a character and still have continuity.
Yeah,
without ever showing it.
Yeah. I would say yes and no in that sense, because in these particular movies they went through like 50 million origin stories.
True. Hey, it's what DC's doing now.
Right, that's true. But it's the same kind of thing though, where it's like, let's go through this again, like one last time.
I do want to point out that I said in a previous podcast episode, how many more times can we see Uncle Ben die? And then they just was like, oh, hold my beer. Here you go.
Though, to their credit, I love the scene in the psychiatrist room.
Right.
And let me
my Uncle Ben. Let me guess.
He died.
You know, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
I was just like that whole montage. I was just laughing. I was just like, man, they called my bluff on that one, didn't they? I thought we couldn't see Uncle Ben die too many more times. They're just like, that's cute.
Yep. I am a little surprised they didn't show Penny Parker's canon event.
Yeah. I was
Now,
curious
granted,
about
that one's
myself.
brutal.
That may be why they didn't show it.
True.
Mm.
Just to
Well,
keep
they
it
also
PG.
they also did kind of allude to it in the first one, as far as I remember.
I don't remember enough of it to say.
Yeah. I will say that the whole multiverse thing that they were showing with the canon events and everything, that was so stinking cool.
Yeah.
The way that they were showing like the different like comic book things, the movies, the shows, like everything kind of all at once. I wish they had gone in more detail on some of it, but I know why they didn't, because there was too much to go through. But like,
there's just so many versions of it. I
Yeah.
do wish that they had shown some of the big moments. Like obviously they wouldn't be able to show the Uncle Ben dying from the video game because we didn't have that, but they could have had the
Right.
Aunt May's death scene from the video game as one of them. That would
Yeah.
have been
Oh.
an interesting canon event to show off. And like,
Mhm.
so it's like I get that there's only so much that they can do
yeah.
because like you said, there is just so much material there to work with.
Mhm.
But I personally think using more of the established characters would have really built up on that nicely.
Yeah. I don't mind them exploring some of the lesser known ones.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like obviously with the Indian version, the
Pavit.
Pavit. I don't know why I couldn't remember that, but like that's a very lesser known one. I think it might have been brand new for this.
It may have been because I've never seen that version of the character
Yeah.
before, so I think you're right.
Yeah,
So-
don't get me lying.
But like the lesser known ones that they could bring in, I feel like that
Yeah.
could be
Well,
fun.
I mean, like the Pavit one makes sense because that was like the canon event that he broke.
yeah,
And so it makes sense that they would show that one. I have
Right.
absolutely no issue with that one. I'm just saying, like, we saw a row of canon events, throw in the video of one of the video game ones, and it's like, well, I think we saw one or two of the live action
yeah,
canon events.
yeah. We saw Andrew Garfield.
I know we
and
saw
Tobey
Andrew
Maguire.
Garfield. Oh, did we see Tobey Maguire? Okay.
Yeah,
We
it
didn't
was
see Hollins.
It was the Tobey Maguire one was kind of up
Yeah.
and to the side, and they had two separate screens
Yeah.
for it. But
Well, see, like it could have been really interesting if they had done both Tom Holland's Aunt May and the video game Aunt May.
Yeah.
Because it would have been like, it's not Uncle Ben in these two situations. Uncle Ben's already gone in these two. And
Mhm.
then they lost someone else that they cared about on top of that.
yeah,
And so it's just showing us like there's canon events and it's not always just going to be one of the people you care about.
Yeah.
And like that really could have put that impact and that weight behind it. It's like there's no guarantee that it's only going to be the Uncle Ben for you.
right.
It's possible that you will lose even more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that too is that, well, a couple things was this whole movie set was talking about how it was Captain Stacy. Then for Gwen, it was also her Peter Parker, who was also the Lizard,
Yeah.
Yep.
which was a crazy thing for me to find out in that one.
That was a very surprising twist.
Yeah, because he's like, I just wanted to be like you,
Mhm.
and was like, you turned yourself into a lizard, dude.
Also, am I the only one who thought that Radiohead would have been a perfect backing track to that scene?
What song?
Creep.
Oh.
Yeah, the fact that it was her Peter Parker, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I liked that. Yeah.
Yep.
that was a new twist on it that
Mm.
I personally was there for, definitely.
Yeah. No, and I agree with what you're saying. Like it was good to see the lesser known characters or the characters we haven't seen go through that yet as well.
Yeah.
Well,
I just think it would have been added. It would have added that much more of an impact had we also seen the video game and Tom Holland's
Yeah.
situations on top of that. Because especially like I said, they had the row of these are all of the different Spider-Man. They've literally all been through this. And
Yeah.
I just think, like I said, it would have added that much more impact had we seen those two as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
fully agree.
But I kind of wish that they had gone into a bit more on the Spider-Man or the Spider People. Can we even call Spider-Ham a Spider People?
Spider It's.
Yes, there.
I think one thing I found interesting is just how much more I enjoyed Gwen's character with both the last movie and this one than I have previously. Like she's always just in the previous stuff I've seen her, and she's always just kind of been a character that was just there. I didn't feel like she was written as well in the past, but with this one, it's like I could see her easily getting her own spin-off and having her own set of movies, and it not only being really enjoyable but doing really well because she's just been written so well so far.
Yep.
That was the surprising thing to me too, especially in this movie, that it was like I wasn't expecting it to start in her world.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, why is this happening here?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, there's some cool stuff happening with her, and she's, like you said, she's being written very well.
Mm-hmm.
And forgive me for saying this, but like she was always the one that was like we made Spider-Man a girl, and it was like, okay, now write her good. Yeah. And now it's
did. Really, I'd say within the last like 4 or 5 years is when both she and Miles started to get written well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And sadly, it's not even in the comic book space that they're being written well in. Those are still very hit or miss with how those characters are written. It's in the video games and the movies that we're seeing both of those characters written so well.
Yeah.
Miles went from just being kind of a side...
Sorry.
Miles just went from kind of being just a side character that felt like he was trying to be forced into the story, but wasn't being given a story to work with.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas, like with the video game, for example, not only did it feel like he fit the story, but it also felt like he was being written well and being written intentionally.
Yeah.
Yep. And now we're seeing that same thing again with Miles for the movie, but also with Gwen, and being introduced. And like I could easily see her being introduced as either a playable character in the upcoming game or even get her own game spinoff, and I'd be 100% here for it.
Oh yeah,
because if they write her as well as she's been written so far, I'm on board.
Yeah. I'm definitely on board as well. The funny thing too is that even the second version of Peter Parker, like it's still Peter Parker, obviously, but that version of him was also being written very well.
They really haven't had any characters that have been written poorly that they've actually taken time to write.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like, even with like obviously the random Spider-Man throughout the Spider-Verse in this movie, they're obviously not being written well because they were just there to serve that one purpose.
Yeah,
and then
kind of throwaways.
Exactly. Yeah,
they're red shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that's a great.
Almost
red
all
and
Spider-Man. Almost all Spider-Man.
That's a great comparison. Yeah. But whereas like Miguel, Gwen, Peter B. Parker, Miles, and even like some of the other characters from the first one, like Noir Spider-Man and
Spider-Ham,
Penny. Like Penny, like they were all written well because there was that intentionality behind it.
Yeah.
And even like just the little things that they pull from that were inspiring this movie, like with Spot being the guy that Miles threw the bagel at.
Dude.
I didn't see that coming at all. And then when they like showed that clip, I was like, there's no way they did that. Like,
and with such a crazy, ridiculous, stupid character too.
Yeah.
Right.
And they made it a character that you actually care about. Like you care that like, there's a
he went
bad
from
guy
the
that looks
goober
like a
that
cow.
got hit with a bagel to the villain of this movie series.
And it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just a throwaway.
Well, he starts off goofy and becomes intimidating.
Right.
Well, I'm going to correct you on that one. He starts off goofy and then it gets extremely existential.
Well, yeah. Because he kicks himself in the butt and throws himself into himself.
Which how is that not what most of the other spider people do?
Yeah, like just that little thing that like the fact that they took the random bagel guy from the first movie and made him into the villain for this movie and the next one, I was just like, I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
You could have given me a million tries and I never would have guessed that bagel guy was going to be the villain.
I'm going to have to go back and watch the first one now.
Yeah.
And
it's very much there.
Oh, well, I'm sure. But it's just like, yeah, like look at the design of them and see if it's the same, which I'm guessing it is. But like a lot of times when they do stuff like that, it's like it's a completely different character, but they just kind of go, oh, that's the one that did
I mean, they
this. But
even showed him in the flashback with
Yeah.
that. So it's like they just basically copied and pasted that scene for that moment and said, like, oh, here's your villain.
yeah,
I'm sorry, what?
What?
it reminds me of the Mysterio from the Tom Holland version.
Yeah.
Yeah,
little
a little
You
bit.
called my creation Barf, and that's why he's a supervillain.
It's just such a like obscure random little thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you made a good story out of this random thing. Kudos. Kudos. Take my money. You earned it.
Yeah.
I guess you could say it was a plot hole they wanted to fill. I was trying too hard on that one.
You tried. You were really reaching.
He was
for that
trying
one.
to become with an everything bagel.
You were also trying really hard. on that one.
And now that Dan and I are racing towards the bottom,
I win.
I one thing I'll say is I didn't expect to like Pavit as much as I did.
Oh yeah.
Like when he
Mhm.
showed up, I wasn't even sure how much he was going to be in the movie. Like I wasn't sure if he was just going to be kind of like this side character that served his purpose in that universe, and then we didn't get to see him anymore. He ended up becoming such a like key character and an enjoyable character throughout.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, please give me more Pavit. Like he's so good.
Yep.
Yo. So one thing I'll say for both of these movies, the Spider-Verse films, they're written exceptionally well. So started getting into it a little bit earlier on in this episode, but the subtexting, the way that the art style helps emphasize a lot of the point of what's actually being said, and also what's not said,
Mm.
is fantastic.
Yeah. Even like the thought bubbles and stuff like
Yes.
that too. I love those.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like but in particular, Spider-Gwen's arc in this installment, like a lot of the writing channels I follow on YouTube, a lot of the psychology channels I follow as well, have been calling out those scenes like, oh my gosh, this is how you portray this confusion. This is how you portray family miscommunication and the desire for a healthy family. Like, holy crap, they did a great job.
Yeah.
Where it's just pointing out, like, no, they have their flaws. You don't see them on screen, but it's very much affecting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The different art styles that show like the different colorations between the moods
Yes.
that I think you were saying before was like in that moment where they're talking and they're trying to understand each other. It's very dark and dim and very just like you see her in a different color, you see him in a very different color,
Right.
and then all of a sudden
It flips.
they understand each other and it brightens up and it's like, okay, now it's real.
Yeah.
Now it's something bigger. Yeah. No, I see that very much.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
But even beyond that, even the short interaction between her and Miles earlier on in the film, where it's her and Miles's world, and they're hanging off the bottom of the gargoyles.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
That scene in and of itself, it's emphasizing her motive without saying a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of, I need to protect you from what I know is coming,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't tell you, otherwise you're going to do the exact thing I'm trying to protect you from.
Right. And kind of on a different note to that, but I also like how they drew the gravity of it.
Yeah.
Like her hair like flowing down and stuff
the
like that.
physical
Like,
gravity,
the
not
physical
emotional
Well,
gravity.
even like just the little things, like when she went to sit down upside down on the gargoyle, she
Yeah.
actually like shot a web down real quick to pull herself because
Mhm.
she's like
To pull herself
standing
up to
upside-
sit down, yeah.
exactly. Like just the little things, it's like you wouldn't even really think about, but it's like, no, that makes sense. Like she's like legitimately hanging upside down against gravity. It
Yeah.
makes sense that she has to do something like that to like get to the
pull
position.
herself too. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just the little things like that they just did so well with this. I also really liked the whole dynamic and build up with Miles and his parents throughout the movie.
Yes.
I thought that was just done great, and especially like when he had that conversation with his dad at the crime scene after fighting Spot, and just that whole thing, like the back and forth with that, and then they're trying to figure out like what's going on with them. Then Gwen shows up, they're like, "Is this it?" And they're like unsure how to feel about it, and like just everything back and forth with the like really both Gwen and Miles, just the dynamic with them and their parents, like just was done so well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when they get to Earth 42, that whole thing too was just crazy. Because like even the dynamic between him and his mom from the other universe was like, at first it's like, okay, it's okay, like he's finally getting to tell her the truth and all this, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, who's Spider-Man? What are you talking about? And it's just like, oh
Yeah.
no.
And you kind of get that you kind of get that one It's a Wonderful Life vibe off of it. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, that was a surprising twist I didn't really expect. And then with that whole dynamic, and she's just sitting there like, your hair is different. I was just like, it's a weird throwaway line. That's kind of strange.
Uncle Aaron said that. He was like, "Oh, you took out your braids." Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
She did say
they
that.
both
too,
made reference to
They
it.
both made reference. And I was just like, that's a random throwaway line. And when she when that reveal happened, I was just like, oh
Yeah.
oh no. And then the whole build up is like they scanned the spider and sent me back to the spider's universe, not mine. Like, oh man. It was just so good.
But the way that they crafted the story and that explanation, and they handed that to you on a silver platter right at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, my second watch through,
wasn't your spider.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Just really emphasizes like, okay, even Miguel's process is broken.
Yeah.
Where he's not picking up on the person, he's picking up on what made them special, which is how they got powers.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's going to be a huge point in the next one, where it's very much emphasizing like, okay, you're thinking on everything we built here, as great as what we built here is, your thinking behind it was flawed.
Yeah.
Is it possible that maybe your thinking on canon events is also flawed?
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely going to be a key thing in the upcoming movie for sure.
Yeah.
Will he turn? That's the question. Is like,
yeah,
will he end up being a good guy?
I'm also a little curious if they'll bring in more.
Kind of have to be. I don't know if he's going to be a good guy per se, but I think Spot's going to put him in a position. It's like, okay, enemy of my enemy. Like I got to do something here.
Yep. But I highly suspect that there's going to be that interplay where it's pointing out like, no, look, you were already wrong once. It's almost guaranteed you're wrong, going to be wrong again.
Do you think that it's going to be a conversation between him and Peter B. Parker?
I think that conversation is going to happen. I think something is going to come to blows with him and Miles, and that's when it's really going to sink in. I don't think Peter B. Parker is going to be the one that necessarily like gets his attention. I think it's going to end up being Miles, or potentially the
who was the
pregnant Spider Woman? I can't remember her name.
Jessica Drew.
Jessica Drew. Thank
you. I think it's going to be Jessica Drew.
She may end up showing up and being like, "No, you were wrong."
Yeah.
And it could end up being that just like everyone kind of gangs up against him, and suddenly he's the one fighting the Spider-Verse.
Right.
I don't think so. I do think it's going to be either Jessica Drew or Peter B. Parker, and my reasoning is very, very simple, but bear with me. I think I think why it will work is because both Jessica and Peter B. are parents. Yeah. What did Miguel lose? His family, including his child.
Yep.
The thing is,
he's not going to hear it from a spider person who's never had a child.
The thing is, he's already shown a lack of willingness to listen to them on that topic, because they both already made granted it was a side comment, but they both have already made a comment to him. That's why I'm predicting it's going to come to a physical altercation with Miles, and that's where the difference is going to be made, because he's already seen the difference with Miles using his electric powers to break out of the barrier, something that hadn't been done up to that point. And so he's already knows that there's something different there, and I think we're going to see a lot of him just battling with, he is different, these powers aren't his, why is he so special?
Right.
And that's going to be what ends up leading up to it.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's going to be a conversation with him and Peter and Jessica.
Yeah.
Yep.
And him and like those three. I definitely see a conversation happening there. I think
It's not
just
going
the
to break
sheer
through.
stubbornness and just the anger that and resentment he's got bottled up from what happened to his family. He's not going to fully register what they're saying, and Miles is going to be the one that ends up finally breaking through. That's my prediction.
I think it could be
I can see that.
a very much like he's not going to see it from the parents' perspective because he's already seeing it from the parents' perspective. More so from the child perspective.
Yeah, he's going to see it. He's currently
Okay.
seeing it from a scorned parent's perspective. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So
I can see that perspective
Yeah.
now.
I definitely think Peter and Jessica are going to play a key role in that.
Absolutely.
100%. And I think Gwen will likely end up playing a pretty big role as well.
Yeah.
Really, all of the spider crew that she built up to go out and help Miles. Like, I don't know that they're all going to get in the battle, like necessarily, but I do think that crew is going to be part of what kind of clicks with him and starts to push him in that direction. Then again, that'll the final conflict with Miles is what'll really open his mind or open his eyes up to it.
Yeah, maybe.
Cool. I like it. I'm very, very much looking forward to the next one. Gotta see that conclusion.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense that it was delayed. I'm bummed it was delayed to next year.
I know.
But it makes total sense because, like, realistically, with how careful the studio has been and how much attention to detail they've been putting into everything, they're not going to pull an EA and release it when it's not ready.
Yeah.
They're going to do the right thing and make sure that it's the exact project they want it to be.
Yeah. And that's right, because it was supposed to come out later this year.
Yeah, it was like November, December this year, I think.
But they pushed it back to 2024, right?
Yeah, it's like March or...
I'm not sure on that. I want to say it's quarter two at least.
Like March or May, in one of those two, I'm pretty sure. I may be wrong.
My brother and I were talking about it earlier, and he said it was going to be a couple years, and I was like, no, I think I heard it was going to be 2024.
Been working on it, and that they were originally wanting it to be this year, and it's like,
yeah, because they were working on it at the same time as
and they just decided to like really give it the time that it needed. And they announced,
along with all the strikes.
Funny enough, they announced the delay before all of the Hollywood strike stuff. So it's
right.
Like,
did they?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It started before the Hollywood strike stuff.
A good like 3 months before.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know, at least. It's not delayed by that, at least.
No. Well, that wouldn't have really slowed it. That would have more so slowed down the marketing because they wouldn't have had the actors to be able to advertise it.
Yep.
Because like
June
if they had already
2nd.
Worked, June 2nd.
Oh wait, no, sorry. June 2nd is whenever the first one came out.
No.
Yeah, I tried to look it up earlier today too, and it was.
I don't think they gave a definitive
inconclusive.
date. They just kind of gave a general time frame, which was smart because if they need to push it back again, it's like, sorry, like we know we said it's going to come out roughly this time. We're having to push back a few months.
Yeah.
Well, that'll about wrap us up for this episode. We hope that you guys enjoyed it. And if you're looking forward to the upcoming movie, most likely this year, possibly, or next year, I would say, possibly the year after, or you just enjoyed the previous ones, or you just like Spider-Man, please definitely hit us up on social media, share with your friends, and we hope to catch you guys again for the next episode. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Yeah.